The Los Angeles Kings currently sit in second place in the Pacific Division with 10 games remaining in their season. However, there are a few teams right behind them trying to take that position away. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the path to the playoffs for the LA Kings. Hey everybody, so today we're going to be talking about the LA Kings and their path to the playoffs and how they can lock themselves into a playoff spot this season. They're in a pretty good spot right now, but they're not completely locked in just yet. They still got a little bit of work to do. And eventually I want to do this over the next few days, week or so, for all of the bubble teams in the Western Conference. But today we're going to focus on LA, currently sitting in second place in the Pacific Division, but Edmonton and Vegas are hot on their heels, both playing very, very good right now and trying to catch the Kings. LA does pretty much control their own destiny still at this point, though, and is in a good spot to still make the playoffs this season. They just can't have any catastrophes here in the final few weeks. So we're going to look at it, the standings, as well as their schedule for the rest of the year. Only 10 games left for the Kings, which doesn't help because they have played a lot already. But we're going to take a look here at their path to how they can get into the postseason. So let's start by looking at the standings, where LA is right now. Unfortunately, they were not able to beat Calgary a second time last night. They lost that game 3-2. So they are in second place with 72 games played, only 10 remaining. And they have 86 points right now in the West. And Edmonton, like I said, hot on their heels, only 1 point back and 2 games in hand for the Oilers. And then Vegas is also at 82 points, which is only 4 points back, and they have 1 game in hand over the Kings. And if you start to get into wild card scenarios, Nashville and Dallas come into play as well for the Kings, with Nashville sitting at 82 points and Dallas sitting at 81. Both of them have quite a few games to go still, having only played 68. They still have 14 games remaining in their season. So this is still very much a pretty tight playoff race as far as the Western Conference is concerned. But looking at LA and where they sit right now, 86 points. They're in a pretty good spot. They're still in second place. I went on Money Puck earlier today, and they say they have like an 89% chance of making the playoffs, which I do think that LA is going to make the playoffs. And they do very much control their own destiny. And we're going to take a look here at their schedule for the remainder of the year, because this becomes very, very important. 10 games left here for the Los Angeles Kings. They have Edmonton Thursday night. They've got Minnesota on Sunday, Chicago the 12th, Colorado the 13th. Next Saturday, the 16th, they've got Columbus. They've got Anaheim on the 19th, Chicago again on the 21st, Anaheim again on the 23rd, and then they close out their season with Seattle and Vancouver. Lots of winnable games here for the Los Angeles Kings if we look at this schedule. Edmonton, that's going to be a very important and very, very difficult game. That's a good, tough matchup. Minnesota, that's also a very tough matchup for the Kings. They're a really good team. Obviously, Colorado's been the best team in the league this year. That's not an easy team to beat. So those are some tough games for the Kings. However, they have a lot of winnable games here in their last 10. Chicago, they play twice. Very winnable games against a non-playoff team. Columbus, that's a winnable game. Anaheim twice. Very winnable games against non-playoff teams. Seattle and Vancouver to close it out. Both of those teams not going to the playoffs. Vancouver's not officially out of it yet, but they're getting pretty close. The Kings need to take care of business in the games that they should win. This is really what it's going to come down to down the stretch here for LA, is taking care of business in the games that you should win. 3 of these games, Edmonton, Minnesota, and Colorado, I pointed out as pretty tough, difficult games. The other 7 of their remaining games are against non-playoff teams that the Kings should be beating. If the Los Angeles Kings go 7-3 and take care of business against those non-playoff teams, they're going to get another 14 points in the standings, which will get them to 100 points on the season. And if they get to 100 points on the season, they are going to be in the playoffs. Even if they only win 6 of their remaining games, and this is, not even including if they beat Edmonton or beat Minnesota or somebody like that, they pull off a big win, that will even further improve their chances. But even if they just win 6 of these remaining games, they're going to get to 98 points, and I think the Kings will get into the playoffs if they get to 98 points. Looking at the standings right now, both wild card teams are at 82. Now, obviously, Nashville has multiple games in hand. Vegas has 1 game in hand. So it's not a foregone conclusion, but I think the cutoff line in the West is going to be somewhere around 96 points. And I think if LA gets there, or gets over that mark, they're going to be definitely going to the playoffs. So if I'm a fan of the LA Kings, I want this team to win at least 6 more games this season, and I think that will be enough to get them in. And obviously, if they can go 7-3 in these final 10 games, the Kings will be at 100 points and in very good shape for making the postseason this year. So all in all, the Kings very much control their own destiny here. They have put themselves in a position where they're the team that's being chased. They're not doing the chasing. Now, the teams that are doing the chasing have played very, very well recently, particularly Edmonton and Vegas. They're both on winning streaks. They both have great records in their last 10 games. But are they going to be able to keep that up for the entire rest of the season? I don't think anybody's going to win out from this point on. So, there are going to be chances along the way for the Kings to make some points back and maybe widen that gap a little bit. It's all going to come down to them getting the job done against the teams that they should beat. If Vegas has a great rest of the regular season, Edmonton has a great rest of the regular season, LA is still going to stay in front of them if they beat the teams that they should beat. If they go out there and win the games against non-playoff teams, LA's in good shape to make the postseason this year. So I like what the Kings have done this season. I think they've certainly been a surprise. I don't think many people had them being this good. A lot of people didn't have them making the playoffs. I think, they've shown a lot just being in this position this late in the season. I don't necessarily think they're going to finish second in the division. I do think there's a pretty good chance that Edmonton ends up kind of going over them maybe and surpassing them. But this game coming up Thursday night between the Kings and Oilers is an absolutely huge one. Obviously, if Edmonton wins that game, that's going to put them in second. They're going to firmly have control of that second seed at that point. Whereas if LA is able to win that game, that's a big, big win to try and keep Edmonton behind them and extend that gap a little bit. So huge game for the Kings on Thursday night against the Oilers. But even if they don't beat the Oilers, even if they can't beat Colorado or Minnesota, they have enough games against non-playoff teams left where if they take care of business in those games, they're still going to be in a good spot to make the playoffs. And it's really in their hands now. It's under their control. If they play well here the final few weeks of the season, Kings will be playing in May, and I don't think many people expected that from them this year. If they really just crap out and only win 3 or 4 more games, then it gets a lot more dicey, and they're going to need somebody else to start losing as well. Whether that's Dallas, whether that's Vegas, whether that's Nashville, whether that's Edmonton, they're going to need somebody else to also really have a tough stretch if they're going to only win 3 or 4 more games. But as long as they win, 6 or 7 of their remaining games, I think you're going to be seeing the Kings in the postseason. So that's what I've got on the LA Kings and their path to the playoffs, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our merchandise store, membership, and donation links are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.